We got quite the surprises today that have actually had some success here. You guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So over the weekend here, we've had our first actual real weekend to break into the format out here. And Gimmick Puppets actually had success here. Now, I did see that there's a combo tutorial posted by Yassine that you guys might want to go watch that will take you through a majority of the combo lines and things that Gimmick Puppets can actually try to like pull off this format. But I was kind of impressed with this idea. I was impressed with the idea that Gimmick Puppets can use Metaltronos in a way to, come down with this potential OTK line, which definitely was not on my bingo sheet, actually. Most of us initially were like, we clean things up. We don't get the extra Gimmick Puppet support until Animation Chronicle 2024. We don't even... When are we getting that set, by the way? May's next year, if we're lucky. So... I don't really know what to say about that, if you want my honest opinion. But evidently, with the help of Metaltronos, you can do OTKs. Number 40 is still an extremely broken card. And I guess, if you're planning on playing anytime soon, I hope that you're fully aware of what this deck is capable of doing. Because this is one of those situations in the meta, you're like, it's a new format, things will be okay. And then you're like, Gimmick Puppet main, that's free. And then they 2-0 you, and you're like, yeah, that's a lot of the reality of the situation I'm coming across here is unpreparedness will blow you out of the water. So hey, Gimmick Puppets, by the way. I am very curious to see some of these lists if they ever actually make their way online. Ritual Beast. So, this is just Protos, right? Like, there's nothing else to this? No. Surprisingly, we're back on the debate of, do I play Protos or do I not play Protos? I 150% want to throw this out there, though. If you are playing this deck without Protos, you are, in my personal opinion, playing the worst version of the deck. Protos gives this deck that huge extra push, in my opinion. Allows this deck to have what I would consider is like a very strong board at the end. You have the Protos lock to blink out whatever element that you need. And then typically, depending on how the board has initially set itself up, and that's where you would also see something, coming down to, oh boy, our dear old friend, Colossus. What's funny actually is I'm seeing every build play Colossus. All right, I've not seen, in the last week and a half of looking at lists in the good competitive side of the game, I've not seen any lists that have cut Colossus. I've seen lists that are tinkering around the idea of not playing Protos, and then you've got some builds that are playing a Scantos in the side deck. I did like that idea. Being able to either Protos or Scantos your opponent is some of the dirtiest crap I've seen in this game in a while. But I think all Ritual Beast mains now kind of agree. Just play the Colossus. It gives you that extra piece on the end board, which is stupid. Like, yeah, please. Floodgate your opponent. Tell them that they can't search cards. Tell them that you're going to win this game right now, and they're not going to be able to do anything about it. Right? Yes. Waste the imperm on the Colossus while I have 3,000 other things for you to deal with. The deck. Fire King's surprising return back to the meta. So, for the last umpteen weeks out here, one of the biggest things that I have seen with everything around Snake Eyes is, post list, Snake Eyes is still going to play pure. It's going to be the go-to build. Surprisingly, to me, we have had a pretty strong recursion back in the Fire King package. I don't know if people they don't feel safe playing pure Snake Eyes pre-Azamina, which I'll give you that. I can't hate on that. Snake Eyes as an individual engine right now does feel a little bit lacking, and that's why people are kind of looking at the supplemental engines here going, hey, This isn't the worst thing in the world. And I can get behind that, honestly. I can agree that with having these changes present, it definitely helps the deck out, at least depending on playstyle. All right, some people will just gradually better, people will gradually just feel better playing the Fire King cards because, having the Barong, if you're choosing to play it, having the Kirin Interruptions feels a little bit better. Having the Arvada Negate also feels incredibly strong. It's these level of interactions that Snake Eyes doesn't really have right now. Ever since you lost Appaloosa, which was the piece of your end board, like Pyro Phoenix or whatever his name is, the Soundman Great Link 4, suddenly, passing on that definitely doesn't feel great. But I mean, having the Promethean Princess to, have that interruption in the graveyard is the thing that most players are kind of looking at right now and going, hey, this is how we play the game. Play the 2 Promethean Princess in the Fire King build. You're pretty much good to go. Like that's a really incredibly strong line of play. Being able to pop and special, hey, my Fire King suddenly is able to trigger. Looks fun, right? The surprise of how Yubel is holding up right now. So, Yubel is obviously supposed to be the best deck in the room, and looking at a lot of the ratios and data from the weekend, I believe it was 8, as of this morning, I think when I looked, it was 18 Yubel to, I think, the next closest deck at 8. Now, just because Yubel feels a lot further ahead of things, a lot of these regionals, as I was looking at for the data, Yubel is not... It's got 3 wins, I think, to the everything else. And 3's not a very impressive number when you had like 15, 16 plus regionals. Don't quote me on that number. It was over 10 for sure. But Yubel is consistently top 8ing. It's just, once you're looking at like the other X1 decks and the other XOs, Tenpai was an incredibly strong competitor for, smashing through these top cuts as well. And of course, the Snake Eyes variations depending on which you're playing out here. But Yubel doesn't feel as far ahead as the Snake Eyes variants did last list. And I think that's an important thing to kind of consider here in the next couple of weeks as we're wrapping up this meta, is that little burst and change in the game is very interesting to see. You have 3 incredibly strong decks. One is a little bit further ahead than the others, but the other 2 can kind of edge things out and can come on top. I think a lot of it's got to do with going first, for sure. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! In the game of going first. Yeah, when hasn't that ever actually mattered? But Yubel is not an unbeatable deck. Like, it's actually incredibly easy to handle. At least, once again, in my personal opinion, it is going to be just that. Now, those are your major changes. Now, does any of this actually truly matter in the grand scheme of things? Honestly, no, it doesn't. And it's kind of a shame because this format technically is only going to last, 3-4 weeks? Maybe a whole month-long format until we get Rage of the Abyss. The whole Marchami thing begins. This was the calm before the storm. This was our nice 1 month that you get to play the game. Things have kind of dialed back. Konami's little, hey, we're so sorry. We understand that, things haven't been the greatest lately, and, I get that. All right? This format, at least in my personal opinion, is a lot more redeeming than the last. Oh, God, it was awful. Just dealing with some of this stuff. All right? So to, have rolled back a lot of these potential changes and seeing the game from a different perspective and actually seeing, hey, Yubel's the best deck for a month. And then, we ramp up the power creep with Tenpai and the next level of Azamina lure support, that it's going to be a little bit rough out here. So, good news, everybody! Get your wallets ready. You got $300 to spend on those Mall Charmies. If you're not spending $300 on Mall Charmies, I can't wait to hear you complain on the internet to your Twitter followers of 5 people about how this game is dying, blah, blah, blah. And you're still not quitting, even though you've said you're going to quit at least 8 times over in the last 2 days. Yeehaw, what a game. Yep, well, you guys have a good rest of your day, alright? Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.